80th birthday, I said, is there anything I can help with?
And I said, you bet.
She assigned me entertainment director, whatever.
Yeah, vice president.
So I thought and thought about, hey, what can we do to honor Dad? A major milestone, awesome life, right? So let's celebrate his decades. I thought about doing all 8 of them, but then I thought, well, wait a minute, let's trim that down. We'll be here all night, right? So I went from 20s to now, and so I asked him.
It wasn't the 1920s. That was
Yeah. His 20s. To now, I guess that was in the 50s, right?
Right.
So I asked Dad to spend some time and do a little bit of homework and write out some short stories, and then think about songs that inspired him through those decades. And so what you're hearing right now are some of those songs. So we'll just let that keep playing. And what I'd like to do is hand anyone to read a short story, if you don't mind.
I'll read one.
You read one? Fantastic. James, why don't you start off with the 20s?
All right.
6 to 1966. I'm a little scared to read this.
Okay.
Great years.
This was the time of graduate school from 1958 through 1961 or 1963 for me. We learned a lot and solved the world's problems, primarily at Ireland's, a nice bar across the street from the van. We would charge a meal and some bottles of beer, and Asa Bush, the owner, would cash our monthly checks at 25 cents on the dollar. Periodically, some nice-looking girls would come in, but the world's problems and beers were more important. One night, there were 4 girls with one particularly good looking. I moved from our booth, pulled up a chair across from the looker, and asked her name. Before she could answer, Brian had moved over and pushed in beside her. Well, with his good looks, dark hair, and English accent, I knew that I was out of the game. At least I can say I introduced him to his wife, Joanne. Brian and I have recently turned, or are going to turn 80, and Joanne is still beautiful at 40.
40s. This is 1978 through 1988. The children were doing well in the new neighborhood in Kingwood. Karen met a new friend, Dawn Day, and they began to play softball. And Karen lettered in volleyball. I didn't know that. Really? I coached her softball team one year, and we won our division, but lost in the final tournament. Rob continued to play basketball, and we got a fast guard, and the first 7-footer at Kingwood, Rodney Odom. We were undefeated, and later Rodney played for a college in North Carolina and played basketball for the pros in Europe.
Yeah.
He and others were responsible for bringing recruits to Kingwood and helped them to win a state championship. Karen graduated in 1985 and went to SFA and graduated with a business degree. Rob graduated in 1988. You have the year wrong.
I'm off. Okay.
You had
Go
it in
ahead.
88.
Tell them when it was.
It was 88, right?
I graduated in 80.
And got a degree from A&M in aerospace with honors. I quit smoking in 1986 when I was 50. My father passed away at the age of 93 in 1996, and he was happy to join his wife in glory.
Through 210. 2000 and 2003 were productive years for our children with Rimmel, Girl Big
Point
Boy,
yourself to other people.
to Laura and Bob in March of 2001, and twin girls Sarah and Charlotte, youngest, were born to Samantha and James in May of 2003, and a girl, Abby, born to Laura and Bob in March of 2003. You couldn't wipe the smiles off of Ruth's and my faces. I have to back up just a little bit here. I'm not sure. I think it probably was the year 2000, maybe. What year were you married? 3.
Oh, okay.
3. Maybe it was 2002 or 1. And Gailor came to Colorado.
That was
in the summer.
2002, because I was pregnant with her. We just found
Yeah.
out.
2002.
I remember that.
Came to visit us, and he walked in and he said, "I am smitten." And he said, "What?" And he said, "I have met this lady." And he said, "I am smitten." Didn't he, Brian? With Ruth.
I was also.
So that was sometime between 2000 and 2003. Anyway, we were very impressed. To fast forward, now we have 2 6-footers, Abby and Sarah, and 4 scholars. It's all are in advanced courses in choir, symphonies, and school officers. I was the elder of buildings and grounds at the First Presbyterian Church, and I resigned when Carol passed away. But I still work with Chuck McDonald Church maintenance. He had a problem with mold and air conditioning grates, which were about 40 feet up in the sanctuary. Chuck had rented a ladder that would reach the areas, and Chuck said he would go up. But Chuck weighed about 250 pounds, and I only weighed 160. I figured that if he would fall off and was injured, I would be questioned as to why I hadn't been up the ladder. I went up the ladder about 20 times and cleaned the grates. A couple of days after a church service, Dr. Covington was walking across the narthex. With a beautiful red-headed lady in a pink dress. I knew that she lost her husband early in the year. I stepped in and told her I was sorry about her loss, and she knew about Carol. Her name was Ruth, and I asked her if she would mind going for a coffee and talk about how we were doing. She called Dr. Covington about me, and he told her about my work at the church, which she must have been impressed with, because he was smitten. We went to breakfast the next week in the Madeleines, and when she had to leave to let her plumbers in, I took her home and asked if I could look at what the plumbers were doing. It so happens that they were trying to con her into a $500 job to replace the valves in her shower, when the problem was a stopped drain on the drip pan in the attic, which only took some compressed air to fix. We asked the plumbers to leave, and I called my plumber and he fixed the problem. The next Sunday I took her for an ice cream cone, and that began our friendship. We married in 2003. We had a beautiful honeymoon in France and Switzerland. We sold our houses and bought a new one in Kingdom. It took several years to get the house the way we wanted it, and we had 4 little granddaughters to keep us busy. We continued to travel to England, Italy, Spain, China, the Amazon, and the world. We have tried to go overseas once a year. The end.
So this is in the 70s. This is 2011 through today. I turned 70 in 2006, and my siblings told me that things would change in my physical ability. They were right, and I started to reduce my lawn and woodworking, and I fell and broke my hip at one of Sarah and Chacha's basketball games in 2013. It took me 4 to 5 months to fully recuperate from the surgery. I'm recovering from pneumonia with lung medication and oxygen, and I am changing my ways and strenuous work and using handymen and kids from down the street. Next week, we will be taking off on a cruise on the St. Lawrence River around Quebec, Nova Scotia, and Maine, and ending in Boston. Later, we will take a driving trip through Mississippi to see the homes in Natchez, and to Alabama and Tennessee to see relatives and attend a reunion at my high school in Nashville, where I was an all-city football player in 1953. The end.